This is the Getting Into Alignment podcast. Here we play in the quantum world of possibilities. If you desire it, you get to have it. My name is Alexa Ray Smith. I'm a business coach and spiritual teacher for women in business. I'm here to help you unlock your personal power and tap into your magnetism so that you can manifest the most incredible life for yourself and build the business of your dreams. These episodes will help you plug into the energy of infinite potentiality and teach you the tools you need to play in this world where limitations don't exist. On this podcast, I'll be talking to you about energetics, mindset, embodiment, spirituality, money, and business. Everything that you want is on the other side of you getting into alignment. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Getting Into Alignment podcast. I'm your host, Alexa Ray Smith. I do not think that I have recorded a podcast episode so far in 2024 because I really wanted to sit with what I wanted the podcast to look like, and I was really reflecting on business, as I think every business owner should. I truly think it's something you should be doing quarterly, but at least every single year, you should be really asking yourself, what do I want to create this year? What do I want this to look like? What do I want this to feel like? And something about the podcast was feeling a little weird energetically. And I've realized that it was the fact that I've listened to so many podcasts. I actually barely listen to podcasts anymore, but I mean, I have listened to so many in the past. And something that I really liked was the fact that business owners like myself who are solo entrepreneurs would really update you on what was going on in their personal lives, and they would update you with what was going on in their business. But I've decided that no longer feels good for me. What feels really good for me is to keep this place really clean energetically and allow this place to just be a spot for you to plug in to get information that is really going to help you to move the needle forward in manifesting your dream life and business. So what I would recommend, if you want any behind the scenes, make sure that you're following me on Instagram, specifically my Instagram stories, because that's the place where I really keep you guys up to date. Because I'm someone that launches a lot of products, I don't believe in just having one program or one offer. I believe on allowing yourself to have multiple offers. Now, this is also coming from a manifesting generator, right? So I don't do well when I feel boxed in any way, shape, or form. And I need to allow my business to grow with me because my business is a reflection of me. This is a personal brand. This is my business. And of course, when I have other businesses, it won't necessarily be my personal brand always if it's a product-based business, because I plan on having many, many businesses. But this one specifically is really a reflection of me. And I do so much work on myself that updating you on a podcast just doesn't feel like I can even do justice or service. And because I don't ever want to feel pressured to have to launch a podcast episode, that's why I've never had a weekly or a bi-weekly schedule. For me, the podcast is something that I do additionally. This is a place where I can give you free content and free information in an audio format because I know that sometimes it's a lot easier to listen to the information when it is an audio format because you can listen to this while you're walking, you can listen to it while you're in the car, you can listen to it while you're on a plane. Traveling is really the best time to listen to audios. But this is a great resource because it gives you a space to plug into for a longer period of time. And because I do not drop episodes every week, and sometimes there is a long time period between when I actually launch an episode such as today, there's going to be so many changes in my business that it feels like trying to tell you what I'm doing in my business right now. By the next time you listen to an episode, we might have already closed that program. It might be an evergreen program already. I might not ever sell it again. I might have completely transformed it into a membership. I might have changed the name of something. I allow my business to be really supported with the masculine structure, and then I allow the feminine flow and my creativity to really flourish. So that way I love my business and I keep building momentum because I get to show up how I desire to show up. So going forward, these are just going to be, I'm going to get on the mic and I'm going to spill the tea. So if you are not already following me on Instagram, I highly suggest that's where you follow me if you do like the behind the scenes, because I'm not even going to lie, I think my Instagram stories are the best. I think my Instagram stories are the best because, yes, that's the best place to go to see what I'm doing in my business, to see what offers you can get into, and to get into them at the lowest price point, because that's the first place I will release them. But I also give you a lot of behind the scenes. And I find that a lot of business owners, once they get to a certain level, especially in the business coaching industry, they just sell on their stories and then you lose the human behind the business. So I'm not even going to lie. If I wasn't me, I would be following me on Instagram and I would be watching my stories. So I just want to say that because I don't know if I've mentioned on the podcast that I am back on Instagram again, because y'all know I took a hiatus. I know I told you about that. That's my update. That's my quick little update. And now we just getting right into it. And going forward, there's not going to be a quick little update like this because y'all going to be following me on Instagram. My handle on Instagram is Smith Alexa Ray, by the way, because somebody has had Alexa Ray Smith and it's a dead account and I cannot get them to respond back to me to change their username. So it's different than all the rest. It's Smith Alexa Ray. I'm Alexa Ray Smith on everywhere else. So I had a really in-depth podcast episode drop through to me yesterday, and I typed it all out because it was one of those things that just wanted to come out, and it was so good. I was actually going to, and so that was the podcast episode that I was going to record today. And then while I was cooking my breakfast this morning, I had this download come through, and I was like, ooh. This is going to transform somebody's life. Somebody needs to hear this. And it was so good. And I love when channeled messages come through and it's just a one-liner because it lands so deeply because you're like, oh, it just cuts through the noise because there's a lot of talking in the manifestation world. There's a lot of noise on social media. There can be a lot of distractions. And when something comes through so cleanly, that's actually when you have the most potent transformation because you're like, ooh, like that message hit me and it recoded my cellular DNA. Like I am not the same person I was before that message came through. And if you work with a mentor, you're very familiar with this because if you're in people's programs, when I say work with a mentor, I don't necessarily mean one-on-one. You can work with a mentor by being in their membership, by taking their programs, by listening to their podcasts, and whatever that looks like for you. I don't want anybody to feel boxed in, and I want to give you a new perspective. You can work with a mentor in multiple different ways, and sometimes you're not actually working with a mentor, like they don't know who you are. You're reading their books, you're following their posts, you are listening to their podcasts. Like they might not even know who you are, but you can consider them a mentor because you are learning from them and they are deeply influential in your life. So I don't want you to think, oh, this doesn't apply to me because I haven't paid for one-on-one mentorship or I'm not currently in a mentorship. When you are listening to somebody that is highly influential to you, when you are listening to somebody that is helping you grow, whether it's personally or professionally, there will be moments when it's a mic drop moment, right? They say something and you're like, oh, wow. Like, it's like you've got goosebumps and things just feel different and you have this whole new perspective. It's like in a video game when you level up. Like I just think of old Mario Kart because y'all know I hate video games. I will proudly say that. I do not understand how people play video games. It is the weirdest thing in the world to me. My references for video games are very, very old when I was a child. So I think of that old Mario when he would eat the mushroom and he would level up and he would grow bigger. And it's like somebody says something and it's like that mushroom that just, with that one little sentence, with that one message that they brought through, you are no longer the same. Something happened there where it actually recodes your cellular DNA and you didn't need to do anything. You were just ready to hear that. And because you were ready to hear it, it hits you differently. So the message that came through was the only time you'll let your circumstances define you is when you haven't defined you. I'm going to say that again. The only time you will let your circumstances define you is when you haven't defined you. Now, I want you to think about that for a minute, because I don't care how long you've been doing personal development, how long you've been on the manifestation journey, how long you've been building your business, whether you haven't started building your business, whether you just found me and you don't even know what the term manifestation means. And this is not your fault. Let's put that in there right now. Society programs you to operate in circumstantial power. And this is not a new term for you if you have been in my world for a minute, but if you are new, because I really want this message to land with you, whoever you are and whatever level you're at, is that you have been programmed and conditioned to be reactive to what you can see with your two eyes. You have been programmed and conditioned to believe that what you're seeing has a complete impact on how you feel, what you think about, and how you actually live your life. The moves you make, what you think you're available for, what you believe is going to be your reality. So many people consistently act in this circumstantial power where they are waiting for what reality looks like outside of them, and then they're allowing what they see to dictate how they feel, to dictate how they speak about themselves, about their life, to dictate the actions that they take, to dictate everything about themselves, to dictate where they get to live, to dictate the car that they get to drive, to dictate how much money they have in their bank account, to dictate what they have to do for a living. This is circumstantial power, when you are allowing the external world to control you and your reality. Now, living in circumstantial power will always keep you living this repetitive cycle where you are allowing life to happen to you, where you are powerless, where you are reactive, where you are not feeling how you desire to feel, where you're not going after your dreams. It gets you in this stuck energy where the majority of people are, where they're complaining about their circumstances, where they're playing into this victim frequency, where they feel like everything's always going to be the same because this always happens, or life is against me, or I'm the unluckiest person in the world. The majority of the people are in this camp where life happens to them, circumstances control them, and they're constantly trying to escape reality because they're so unhappy with the reality that they're living in. Now, there comes a certain time, it just started downpouring rain. So I'm going to take that as a sign and a synchronicity. I'm recording right now in the sunroom, which I almost wasn't going to record in because the birds have been screaming today. They have been talking today, which I also took as a sign. So ironic, and here's a quick little tangent, is I wanted to record this podcast after I was done eating breakfast. And then the construction started next door. They're building a bunch of condos, and then this big truck was parked outside, and then the birds were screaming. It was one of those, oh, this is so perfect. This is why I love getting on the podcast, because I literally just have like a little idea and then I allow the universe to speak through me. So if I allowed the circumstances to dictate me, what would I have done? I wouldn't have recorded this podcast, right? Because, well, the truck is noisy and there's banging in the background and the birds are screaming, which I will have you know, all are happening. And now as I just looked outside my window, another big truck just pulled up. Like, you could not make this up. And now he's got the backup signals. I don't know what you guys can hear. I have supersonic hearing. I truly do. So I feel like it's right in my ear right now. But hopefully you can't hear the noises. If you can, though, I think that's kind of beautiful in this moment. A lot of people, they want something. So the podcast, they want to record a podcast episode. But then they look around and they go, oh, but it's so noisy and there's so many distractions and this is happening. And I just put a diaper on Gaia because I haven't decided if I want to get her fixed. And she's walking around with her, you know, that diaper sound, the little scrunchy sound. And she doesn't want to sit down because she doesn't know that she can sit down in the diaper. So it was like a whole process to teach her that she had to sit down. Do you see how It would have been so easy for me to say, oh, well, I guess I'm not recording a podcast today. That's a really great message, but maybe I'll just record a TikTok video. Because at this point, I used to do 5 videos a day. I do about 3 videos a day. So it would be so much easier for me to just record a TikTok video and just say something really quickly. And then I don't really have to worry about the noises because I can just wait. This is what a lot of people will do. Oh, well, I want this. And then they look outside of them and then they find 1,000,001 excuses why they can't. Why they can't launch the business, why they can't write the book, while they can't record a podcast episode, while they can't manifest the house, while they can't manifest the car, while they can't make that much money. People have been conditioned to override what they desire and what their passion and energy is leading them towards to then try to fit into the reality that they're currently living in and constantly limiting themselves and giving their power away to their circumstances. As I said before, this isn't your fault. You've been programmed to do this. So if you right now are like, well, Alex is calling me out. First of all, welcome to my world. That is my potency as a mentor. I'm going to call you out on your blind spots. I'm going to call you out on the unconscious habits, patterns, and beliefs that you have. Because when they are so deeply unconscious, you are not aware that you're doing them. And awareness is key because awareness is how you become conscious. And you've heard me say 1,000,001 times, consciousness is truly the most foundational aspect of manifesting. It's not even choosing what you want. It's deciding what you want. First of all, you're not choosing, you're deciding. But you've got to become conscious, because if you don't have what you desire to have, it is because there is something going on in your unconscious that is in opposition to what you desire to have. And until you clean up whatever is in your unconscious that's out of congruence with what you desire to experience or have, you're never going to have it. You cannot trick your unconscious mind. You can't. Just like people are like, well, trick the universe. You can't trick the universe. Embodiment. You've got to be embodied in it. But in order to be embodied in something, you have to do the unconscious work. So a lot of people are so unconscious to the fact that they aren't moving and taking action towards their desires because they feel like they can't. I can't leave the job because I'm this old and I've been in it for this long, and people would judge me, and what would my family think, and I have a family to support, and what if it doesn't work? Then everyone would look at me like I'm completely crazy and I would look like a failure and a loser. That's the story that most people go into, and then that story keeps them stuck, even if they're miserable in their job. And it's like, as somebody who worked for the New York State government for 8 years, and on day one, I knew I wanted to quit. Day one, I knew that this was the most miserable place I had ever been. And if I didn't get out, I was going to be depressed and suicidal my entire life. I didn't leave because, well, I had benefits and it was the most secure job and this, that, and the other thing. And what would my family think? Because I've come from a very blue collar family. And here's the deal. At the beginning, everybody said the same thing. And then when I was 8 years in, everybody was saying the same thing. Except, what do you mean? You've been there for 8 years. In 2 years, you get vested. You'd be crazy. You've been getting promoted. La da 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 da. It was never about what I wanted. It was never about my mental health. It was never about my emotional health. It was never about what made me happy. And I find that this is something that not all countries play into, but Americans specifically, and maybe in like London, UK area. But I find that most other countries, like look at Spain. I feel like Spain is the perfect example of having, or France, of having a really healthy life-work balance. And notice how I didn't say work-life balance. Why are we putting work first? It should be a life-work balance because your life should be the primary aspect and your work should be the smaller percentage. Maybe that could be argued if you're an entrepreneur and you really fucking love what you're doing. We prioritize so deeply working in America. The first question everyone's going to ask you is, what do you do? What do you do? And it's always about what you do, what you do, what you do. I think I've said this quote before, but in one of my favorite movies called Across the Universe, which is a movie that is a compilation of Beatles songs, and it's so beautifully done. If you like psychedelics, highly, highly recommend watching this movie on psychedelics. But it's at one point in the movie, the guy goes, "What do you do? What do you do? What do you do? That's all you care about." And he's really reacting to the fact that his uncle is telling him that he needs to go to war and be a soldier because he got drafted. And it wasn't about what makes you happy. It's about what are you going to do? And I find that I've always resonated so deeply with the hippie movement, possibly because my father was a hippie. He has pictures of the van. He smoked a lot of weed. He dropped a lot of acid. I smoked a lot of weed. I've dropped a lot of acid. Like I had my drug decade. Y'all have heard me talk about it before. I always loved the hippie movement because I felt like it was a complete rebellion where people were going from this head-centered space of living to this heart-centered space of living, where it was like, let's move our fucking bodies. Let's dance with the music. Let's go have community where we're flourishing together. Let's rebel completely with what society is telling us to do. Let's not trade in our soul for a paycheck. Let's not be authentic and actually just look like everybody else. Like I always loved that movement, and I think that's one of the reasons why I love that movie so much as well. It's something that I think about a lot, and I think that as humans, I know that as humans, we aren't meant to be as logical as we are. It's because of the Industrial Revolution and the way that society transitioned during that point. You guys hear me say all the time that we are really in the era where we're coming back to a heart-centered space. We're now in the age of Aquarius. And hi, I'm an Aquarius sun. I have a stellium in Aquarius. I am like the stereotypical Aquarius, minus the fact that I've got a Cancer moon, and an emotional authority in human design. So I am emotional, which Aquariuses are normally aloof. We are really at a time where we're coming back into a heart-centered space of living. And a lot of people living in the matrix aren't there yet. But if you're listening to this podcast, you are there. And you are one of the people that is really, truly meant to pave the way forward and follow your dreams. Because you've been programmed to let circumstances define you, it's going to take a lot of personal development work. It's going to take a lot of emotional intelligence. It's going to take a lot of mindset work. It's going to take a lot of you getting really clear on what life you want to live and who you actually want to be, because you get to recreate yourself as many times as you want, and you get to reinvent yourself, and you get to truly become anyone that you want to become. And what I have consistently seen through my years of mentoring and teaching and working with people and creating content, so hearing from the collective, is the people that really struggle with manifestation and business building are the people that continue to live circumstantially. And the people that completely have illogical growth, have the most epic lifestyles that manifest all of the things and not just small things, like the big grandiose things. They're the people that learn to master themselves, and they live in non-circumstantial power, where they decide how they want to feel. They decide how they want to think. They decide who they're going to be. And so they are actively showing up in every moment like that person. And when they notice that something has them feeling a different way, something has them thinking limiting beliefs, something outside of them is causing them to go back to who they used to be, they immediately start cleaning it up. They don't fall into old patterns. They don't fall into limiting beliefs that they used to have. They don't allow their old self-concept to rear its head up. They are constantly becoming conscious of how they're moving throughout the world, day by day, moment by moment, so much so that they're actually able to clean it up in the moment. Yes, this does take practice, just like with everything, but once you've been doing personal development and mindset work for a certain period of time, you actually get so good at doing it in the moment that you don't necessarily always need to fall back on a journaling practice or writing it all out or making a list of every negative experience you've had in relation to that thing. Like, yes, there's a time and place for that at the beginning, but I would argue if you're still doing that and you've been doing this for a year even or more, like you're holding yourself back by journaling and needing to write it all out. You should be able to do it in the moment once you've been more practiced at this. So the people that are letting their circumstances define them are the ones that haven't defined themselves. And what I mean by that is they haven't decided who they're going to be. They are still showing up as society or their programs or their upbringing told them they could be. And 88% of millionaires are self-made. If they listen to their circumstances, if they listen to what everyone else told them was possible, they would not have become who they are. They wouldn't have innovated. They wouldn't have been trailblazers. They wouldn't have been pioneers in their industries. And the world would be worse off if those people didn't actually decide to do it differently. And it's because they decided who they were going to be, and they did not let anyone or anything outside of themselves tell them they couldn't be that. And if anything, the people and the places and the things that made them feel like they couldn't or kept repeating that, they put distance between, or they cut them out of their lives because they realized that they didn't get it. And somebody can only meet you at the level that they've met themselves. So if somebody isn't a dreamer, if somebody is so unconscious, if somebody's so living in the matrix, they won't get it. And that's not up to you. Your job isn't to show those people what's possible by trying to force them to think or do the things that you're doing. It's about modeling who you're going to be and showing up in that moment no matter what. And they can sit on the sidelines and watch, but you don't need to have a dialogue and have a conversation with them about what you're doing. You've just got to do the damn thing. And so many people are too busy looking at what's going on outside of them. Too many people are looking at, well, this is what my 3D is showing. There's no movement, especially this whole, y'all know how I feel about this. Have I mentioned it on the podcast? I don't know. But the way that the law of assumption is being taught on TikTok, good God, like, it made me never want to talk about manifestation again. I really at the beginning of this year, I thought I was done talking about manifestation because if I got asked one more question about how do I manifest my specific person back? What did I do if there's no movement in my 3D? Like the victim frequencies that these people are playing into because the egoic teachings and how toxic it is being taught because there's no personal development and shadow work being taught. It's just like absolutely wild to me. And I'm done talking about it. I'm just not entertaining that anymore. If that's the conversations that you want to have, please go somewhere else because I'm not playing into your victim frequencies. I'll never do that. But you have to realize that if you're constantly looking at your 3D circumstances, if you're constantly looking at things around you, if you're constantly looking for evidence and proof that it's working, if you're constantly trying to test the universe or ask the universe for signs, like you're missing the whole damn point in this manifestation thing. You have to decide who you are. You have to decide what you're getting. You have to decide that it's this or something better because it always is this or something better in manifestation. We're not manipulating people's free will. Yes, free will exists. Like we're not doing that. So it's about understanding that you're either getting the manifestation or you're getting the lesson that you need to learn to become the person that has the manifestation. But it is a journey and not a destination. And at the end of the day, you guys know that we live in a quantum universe. So everything outside of you is actually an illusion. Time is an illusion. Reality is an illusion. It is a non-localized reality that we are living in. We are living in a virtual reality game, which is also why I think people that play video games, it's just the craziest fucking thing to me. It's like Inception. You're living in a virtual reality game, but instead of trying to learn the rules of this reality and trying to win in this reality, you're escaping this reality and putting headsets on. Like, it's so fucking weird. And quite honestly, if we stay at this trajectory with the way that we're becoming so hyper dependent on technology, specifically AI, we are just going to see a collapse of humanity in this world. And this is something that Bashar talks about a lot, if you're familiar with him as a channel, when he talks about the people that he came from that are now the Greys. It's because of the fact that they became so highly dependent on technology that they lost their humanity and their DNA was no longer viable. So I'm not going to go on a huge rant today. If you've listened to Bashar, you've heard him say that. And one thing that I love about Bashar is he reminds you of this. If you're looking for things outside of you to tell you that it's working, then you don't understand manifestation because it's not about the things outside of you confirming what you desire to experience and what makes you feel good. It's about doing the work so that way you can actually go inward. You can focus more on your inner space and you can start creating the reality that you desire to experience internally. by feeling differently, by visualizing, by really focusing on what you want to experience and not allowing what's happening outside of you to derail that. Like if you're going into the frequency or the mindset of it's not working, no matter what I do, it doesn't work. Quite honestly, you're still playing a victim and you're not actually grounding down into the work and really clearing up your unconscious and going into the depths of your psyche. That's why my manifestation method is mind, body, soul, because you have to get into the depths of your psyche to be able to rewire your mind, to regulate your nervous system, and to recode your cellular DNA so that way you can show up at a different frequency. And since time is happening simultaneously, there are 1,000,001 different realities. There's 1,000,001 different versions of yourself. And all that is keeping you from the reality that you desire is who you're being in this moment, the frequency that you're operating in, the thoughts that you're playing into, the meaning that you're assigning, the stories that you're telling. And when you can no longer allow the circumstances to dictate the stories that you tell, to dictate the thoughts that you think, to dictate the words that come out of your mouth, to dictate the self-talk that goes throughout your day, to dictate how you feel, that is when you become unstoppable. And that's when you're going to quantum leap, because you are literally going to align with a different timeline. So that way you're not even available for this old version of yourself. The people that allow their circumstances to dictate them are the ones who haven't defined who they're going to be. They are deciding something that they want, or not even deciding, because deciding means you're all in and you're doing whatever it takes. These are the people that are like, I want this. I hope that it happens. Please, universe, like, let me manifest this money. Let me manifest this person. Let me manifest this job. No, you are the one that's creating this whole thing. So who are you talking to? Who are you talking to? You're the one that's creating this. You are the walking divine. Don't allow Christian indoctrination to tell you that God's outside of you, because they took the Hermetic principles and they made them blasphemous, and then they copied them and made a Bible out of it, but they ended up putting judgment in the Bible and they removed divinity from you. Like, that's not the way it works. It never worked that way before Christianity, so we got to let it go. But you have to realize that when you decide who you are going to be in this lifetime, you're not getting distracted with what you're seeing outside of you because you're too busy becoming that version of yourself. I said this the other day on a live, but it's like you have enough work on your plate. You have enough work when you decide that you're going to manifest a different reality, when you decide that you're going to be somebody else. There is a lot of inner work that's required. You don't have time. You don't have time to get distracted by what's going on outside of you. And quite honestly, if you have the time to get distracted with what's going on outside of you, that's a clear indication to me that you're not doing enough inner work. And it's not about doing inner work all the time and never living. But what I mean by that is if you're not doing the inner work and you're waiting for things to happen outside of you, we're never in waiting energy. We're always in leading energy. We're always in creating energy. So you've got to stop looking for evidence that it's working. And as I always tell you, my tagline, I even made a t-shirt that says this: you've got to be the evidence until you see the evidence. And until you are the evidence, you won't see the evidence. And so many people are still allowing their circumstances to define them because they haven't defined them. So that's the message that I really want to land with you today. Have you decided who you're going to be? Have you decided what reality you're going to have? Have you decided what you want to experience, what house you want to live in, where you want to live, what you want your body to look like, what relationship you want to be in, whether you want to have kids or whether you want to have animals or whether you want to live alone on a mountain? Have you decided what your life looked like? If I were to ask you right now, from everything, from lifestyle to health to career to love to money to your relationship with yourself to family to community, would you be able to, without hesitation, tell me exactly what you're creating? Or are you like, oh, fuck. Wait, what? What? I'm supposed to know all of that? And don't overwhelm yourself if you're like, I'm not even close. But if you're not even close, if you're like, oh, I have no idea where I want to live, or I have no idea what I want my relationship to look like, or I have no idea what I want to do, or I have no idea how much money I want to have in my bank account. What are you doing looking at things outside of you when you are so uncertain about what you want? You have to spend more time becoming certain with what you actually want to experience and what you want your life to actually look like. And this doesn't mean you necessarily have to know every single aspect right now, and you don't need to know it all before you're taking action. But do you see what I mean when you have a lot of work laid out for you? So why are you looking at the 3D if you couldn't actually tell me from start to finish? If you couldn't write a book right now or write a movie script, because I guess that's a little shorter. If you couldn't write a script right now of what your ideal life looks like, if you were to create a movie, would you be able to tell me what the house looks like that you're in? Would you be able to tell me what you are doing for work? Would you be able to tell me what your family dynamics look like? Would you be able to tell me what your friendships look like? Would you be able to tell me what your relationship with self looks like? Would you be able to tell me what clothes are in your closet? Because if not, spend more time getting clear on that. Because I don't know doesn't work in my world. I don't let my clients play an I don't know frequency because your mind literally knows everything. You are the one that's telling yourself you don't know because you haven't allowed yourself to dream big enough, because you are living so circumstantially and you've been told your entire life that this is what you get to have, and that doesn't resonate with you. It doesn't light your soul on fire. It doesn't make your heart beat faster. So you just are so jaded that you're not even allowing yourself to think. If you're in that position right now, I want you to turn the notch up. I want you to turn the dial up, and I want you to dream 1,000 times bigger than you are right now. I want you to actually let yourself dream. You have to decide who you're going to be, because if you don't decide who you're going to be, then people are going to tell you who you are. If you do not decide who you're going to be, then people are going to tell you who you are. Do you want to be the person that's told who they get to be, how much money gets to be in their bank account, who they get to be in a relationship, whether they get to be in a relationship with somebody, what house they get to live in, where they get to live, what car they get to drive, what their days get to look like? Or do you want to consciously create that and create it in a way that actually lights your soul on fire, that actually makes your heart beat faster, that actually makes you want to get out of bed every single day? Because once you learn to live here, you're never going to go back. You're never going to go back to living in this reality where you're allowing circumstances to define you. Because if anything, you have created a sense of humor where you get to laugh at the circumstances outside of you, because you go, oh, wait a minute, that's something I need to clean up. That's funny. Or you get to a point where you're no longer even identified with it because you understand there's a time lag in this reality creation process sometimes. So it's like you're just laughing at these things that are happening outside of you, and they're not allowing you to go into any weird energies or feeling emotions that you don't desire to experience, not allowing you to create these limiting stories and beliefs. You're just laughing at it because you know that that old version of you was available for that and you identified with it in some way. But when you do the work to no longer identify with things that you don't want to experience, you're not allowing those experiences to make you show up out of character. You're just laughing at it and going, well, that's going to clear itself up because I'm aware that that's not me anymore. I'm not available for that. Or you're looking at the evidence that's happening outside of you and you're getting really crystal clear on what story you're telling that does align with that, or what part of you does actually feel like that's what your life has to look like, or what story you keep telling that does match it, or what feelings you keep feeling that are aligned with that reality. Once you realize that you get to control the reality that you're living in when you control you, the work is always going to be on doing the work on yourself and noticing the things outside of you that are out of congruence with what you desire to experience and no longer engaging it with them. Because the more you focus on it, the more attention you put on it, the more you speak about it, the more it's going to manifest in your reality. When you instead say, okay, cool, that's not where my attention's going because I'm manifesting this, period. And so I'm busy doing the work to manifest that, and work being inner work, not working hard. Understand that. But when you start playing here, you're playing a different game. You're playing a different fucking game. And this game, the game of life, you're winning. And the only way to be a winner at life is for you to master yourself and for you to get really fucking clear on who you are going to be. Because everyone's going to tell you who you have to be. Society is going to tell you who you have to be. They've always been telling you that. Your parents have always told you that. But you get to decide. So what I want to leave you with is, have you decided? And what is it costing you not to decide? All right, this episode was long, it was juicy, but it needed to come out. So thank you so much for being here. I love you guys so much. If you could do me a favor and leave a review on the podcast so that way you can get out to more people, I would greatly, greatly appreciate it. You guys comment all the time on my YouTube channel on the videos, which I greatly appreciate, but please do me a favor and go into Apple or go into Spotify and drop some comments, especially because this is the first episode that I've released in 2024. So let's get some juice and some energy flowing towards the podcast so we can help more people transform their lives. And if you want to get into my world, the best place is joining AOMU, my manifestation membership. I also have a business membership, or you can get into mentorship with me or any of my masterclasses or programs. Go to my Instagram stories and you can see it right away, what's going on currently, or just go to my website and you can always see what's going on and join whatever, because everything in my world is evergreen, or it's launching and then it will be evergreen. But I'm so grateful you're here. I'm so excited to hear from you guys. Let me know your biggest takeaway. Let me know what landed for you in this episode. And until the next one, I'll talk to you later. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you're ready to go deeper and to get into my world, you can go to my website, alexaraysmith.com. You'll find all of my current programs on there. If you're desiring to get mentored by me, then the best thing to do is shoot me a DM on Instagram and we can talk about mentorship options and which one's the best fit for you. If you're absolutely loving this podcast, please go rate it 5 stars and let me know why you're loving it. This will help me share the podcast with more people. Thank you so much for spending your time with me. And until the next episode, keep manifesting the most incredible life.